Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor. Go to DerbyWars.com now, use promo code Survivor to get 5 free Survivor games with your first deposit.
Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsey, and as always, I have the outstanding Kentucky Derby pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
Brian, Kentucky Derby is the word. This is it, Brian. This is our ultimate HorseCenter Kentucky Derby show. The draw just ended, Brian, and it's time to get to the nitty-gritty.
They drew 20 horses this year, Matt, 20 for the Derby. I remember when the Derby used to be less than that, but nowadays, of course, we have 20 spots, 1 through 20, and the one spot that everybody says they don't want is the one hole. Who got the one hole this year? It's a long shot that we both like. I think I like him even more than you. It's Looking at Lee, Matt, coming out of the dreaded one hole.
That is true, Brian. And interestingly enough, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, didn't his daddy break from the one hole in the Derby also? Didn't Looking at Lucky break from the one hole?
You are correct, sir. 7 years ago, Looking at Lee was the favorite, the 6-1 lukewarm favorite for the 2010 Kentucky Derby. Looking at Lucky had no luck from the one hole. Slightly different horse than his son, Looking at Lee, where he is not the deep closer that Looking at Lee is. So Looking at Lucky was banged, bounced, and bopped around on his way to a disappointing finish in the Kentucky Derby. He ran a little bit late, Matt, but all that trouble was more than he could overcome. I do think, however, that of all the horses in this race that could draw the number one, Looking at Lee might be the best horse to draw the one. I'm not saying I like the one hole for Looking at Lee, but considering Corey Lannery likes to rally up the rail, likes Churchill Downs, and this horse is going to drop way back no matter where he was. The fact that he's on the rail, he still needs some luck, but the fact that he's on the rail might not be the worst thing in the world.
Completely agree, Brian. And when I was watching the draw, of course, being a little self-centered and thinking about the wagers that I have planned and am I going to get hurt on the one hole? When I heard Looking at Lee, I was like, okay, if someone's got to be there and not get hurt, Looking at Lee is the perfect horse. Deep closer. So from the one hole, he can break. Corey Lannery can be really patient. Right on the rail, he wants to have a ground-saving trip anyway. Right on the rail, let his horse relax, go to the back of the pack, let the other ones bang heads, try to come out of the gate and get position and save ground and make a rally. So I completely agree, Brian. If someone had to be in the one hole and not have it be quite so negative, perfect draw pick would be Looking at Lee.
It's been just over 30 years since anybody's won from the one hole. Of course, that was Ferdinand under Bill Shoemaker, and Ferdinand did come from way back. He saved some ground. He found the hole at the right time. So maybe Looking at Lee can bring back memories of Ferdinand. I believe that was 1986, Matt. Let's talk about some of the big names in this field, some of the favorites in this field and where they drew. First off, the listed morning line favorite at 4-1 is Classic Empire. 14-hole, Matt. Right outside him is McCracken, 15. There's a little bit of gap between the 14 and the 15. I think this is a perfect draw for the favorite, Classic Empire, and also my personal favorite, McCracken.
Yep, and all of those horses that are in the middle of the pack, people think, they're in a safe spot. But again, it's a lot of horses condensing into a much smaller space coming out of the gate. There's going to be bumping, there's going to be pushing, there's going to be shoving. So you got to let that all play out for the first eighth of a mile, let the horses settle, and go from there.
True, and I hope that pushing and shoving is not in the Schiffman household on Saturday afternoon, Matt. I hope you're talking about the Kentucky Derby. Yes, you're right. Every horse in this race needs racing luck with 20 horses, but just looking at the draw, 14, 15, Classic Empire McCracken, I think their connections should be very happy with where they drew.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with that. Brian, who are some horses that you think maybe didn't get the best of draws?
Well, yeah, I don't have a lot of problem with what I see on this draw. There's some speed. We need to talk about the speed horses.
Yep.
I put a check mark next to number 3, 5, 6, 9, 11, and 17 as horses that are likely to go out there. Now, Fast and Accurate is 3. That's an inside post. I think he has to go. Number 5 is Always Dreaming. So Always Dreaming is almost sandwiched between Fast and Accurate at 3 and State of Honor at 6. So I think that does put the pedal down a little bit for Johnny V on Always Dreaming. It makes me think that if he doesn't push a little bit out of the starting gate with the speed inside and outside him, I think that's a dangerous situation. Either he gets shuffled back a little bit, or maybe he has to use too much too early. What do you think about that 5-hole, Matt? I know Always Dreaming is one of your top picks.
Yeah, Brian, I think you're right that horses whose typical running style is on the lead or close to the lead, they've got to come out of the gate with a little. They've got to come out of the gate with a little bit of speed, because if they don't, before they know it, they're suddenly going to be a closer or a deep closer. And this goes back to what we've been saying the last couple shows about there being a good, solid, contested pace. That's exactly why there will be a good contested pace. And I know people disagree with us, but horses and connections don't want to end up at the back of the field, so they got to go a little bit.
That's right, Matt. And I think conversely to the outside, there's not a lot of speed on the outside, but Classic Empire's, Irish Warcry is drawn well outside, the number 17 hole. That may prompt him to work a little bit in the first furlong as well to try to get a little better position. I don't know that they wanted to be on the lead, but again, a horse that doesn't want to be shuffled back to 10th or 12th or 14th either. So Irish Warcry 17 might not be ideal, but again, he might get a clear trip out there with not a ton of speed around him. Right outside him are 2 horses that I figured would be stalking or middle of the pack types. Gormley, Practical Joke, 18-19 may make them work a little bit early as well. So I don't know if that's the best spot in the world. Number 20, the far outside horse is Patch, and that's interesting. Of course, Patch is the horse with no left eye. He's got one eye, Matt. He won't be able to see the horses, 19 horses inside him. He will be able to hear the crowd to his right, the loud 160,000 plus crowd to his right. He'll be able to see all of that, but everything to his inside he won't see, and that's 19 horses. So that could be interesting for the sentimental favorite Patch.
Could be a good thing not seeing what's going on the inside of him there. And you know, what kind of ride are they going to give Patch? Is Patch going to be one of those rides where they come out of the gate and the jock says, "Go ahead, everybody"? They let him go, and he dives towards the rail quickly to start saving ground. We'll see some horses doing that that are towards the outside.
Yeah, that makes sense for Patch. He will be diving blind just a little bit, Matt. Some of the other horses, Gunavera, interestingly, we haven't talked about the morning line. This is Mike Battaglia. He's been doing this for over 40 years. His morning line, it's a little different than mine. He did go, as I mentioned, Classic Empire is the 4-1 favorite. McCracken and Always Dreaming are both 5-1. McCracken's gotten a lot of talk. I don't know if he'll be back quite that much. Fourth choice makes sense. He's got Irish Warcry 6-1. I think where Battaglia may have missed the boat just a little bit is with the fifth choice. He has them all the way down at 15-1. And most of those horses make sense for me. We're talking about Gervin, Gormley, hence 15-1 makes sense for me. But I think Gunavera is going to be bet quite a bit more than 15-1. I think he's also a horse that people are clamoring to bet. I think he probably has the Latin bet on his side. And as a real big closer, I think Gunavera is a horse that people are going to bet a little bit. So I actually think Gunavera, who got a pretty good post, number 10, you think that's fine. That's probably just about where they wanted to be at 15 to 1. I think he's going to be under 10 to 1 now.
Yeah, I don't know, Brian. It doesn't seem likely that we're going to have that many horses clustered around 5 to 1 in that big gap to 15 to 1. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a line maker, and hey, I'm not a guy that's looking to bet to win in the Derby either.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about a bunch of exotic bets, Matt. And from talking, shaking hands with people on the backstretch, I know people are interested to see what we're going to do. We're certainly putting out a lot of our bets that we will be making, and a lot of our favorite bets. I might have a few more as time goes on, and as I'm looking at things here and there. But we're gonna actually give you some of our favorite bets over the Derby, and even going back into the Oaks Derby Double and the Oaks Woodford Reserve Kentucky Derby Pick 3. Matt, before that, we are going to talk a little bit about the horses that we've thought have looked good, or more specifically, since I'm at the backstretch, you're watching the videos, horses that look good. And one horse that has moved up my ladder a little bit, so to speak, is the Maiden. Sonneteer is both experienced and improving. Matt, I really like the way he closed in both of those Arkansas graded stakes, the Rebel and the Arkansas Derby. He was closing fast. Once he made a nice move up the rail. The other one, he went way wide the whole way. Both times he got within 2 lengths. Looks like he's screaming out for more distance. And Matt, he's looked very good since arriving in the last few days for the Keith DeSormo barn.
Yeah, Brian, and I can't disagree with any of that. And I know you've got a good eye for the horses. My one thing with Sonneteer is that, he's going to have to run a little faster than he has in the past in terms of speed figures and things. And I do want to say to our fans, if you haven't taken advantage yet of all of the interviews and videos that Brian has up on Horse Racing Nation, and you can access them by going into Zipsy at the Track's blog, where he's got an intro and all of these terrific interviews. He has interviewed all the big trainers of all the big horses, and there's some interesting things that they've had. And I'm particularly interested in the interview that you did with Graham Motion, and I'll bring that up a little bit later on as we talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, and Irish Warcry is another horse who I think looks good out here. There are a lot of horses that look good. I didn't see too many things I didn't like. Actually, unfortunately, I didn't really like the way Patch or Battalion Runner looked in their works. Pletcher pulled the trigger and scratched Battalion Runner. Patch, though, notoriously is a horse that is supposedly not a horse that looks good in the morning. So if that's always the case with Patch, then maybe nothing to worry about. But he's not been a horse that's impressed me. A lot of horses look good out here. I mean, some horses that I will not bet. State of Honor, I thought, has looked very good. And Untrapped being another one. Horses that have looked good. Practical Jokes look good. Keith DeSormo must have a type, because Sonneteer really does remind me a lot of what I saw last spring with Exaggerator. And of course, we know Exaggerator ran a big race to be second, Matt. This time we're going to get 60 to 1 on Sonneteer. I think the Derby is a race where speed figures, and these speed figures we're seeing too, are not really one-sided. They're all slightly low, maybe for Kentucky Derbies coming into the Derby. Irish Warcry is a horse who has some nice ones. Always Dreaming had a nice one, of course. Here and there, Classic Empire is a 2-year-old. But speed figures, it might not be a speed figure race, Matt. It might be a race where horses are getting tired, that last furlong, that last quarter mile. And therefore, a horse like Sonneteer, maybe at 60 to 1, is a horse I really see running at the end, looking at those 2 Arkansas races. So there's no reason for me not to bet Sonneteer at those kind of odds. Seeing where he's been the last few races and seeing how good he looks out here, I think the horse that's impressed me consistently, he's been a horse that's been here for a few weeks, but McCracken, coincidentally, he's my top choice, but I think McCracken has looked especially good at a track where this is his home, and he's 3 for 3.
Yeah, Brian, and a lot of people like McCracken, and there's a lot of things that you can like about McCracken, and I'm going to be using him on my tickets too. But if you're pushing me to give my top choice is going to be Always Dreaming, and I know there's been talk about him being headstrong and a little difficult this week, but I think those are all things that are signs of a horse that is in extremely top form, that is ready to roll, that is, bursting at the seams and ready to run. And I'm going to go back to that interesting interview, Brian, that you did with Graham Motion, where he talked about horses, and you brought up Animal Kingdom with him. And he mentioned that when horses, these 3-year-olds, get at their top form, they get full of themselves. They get antsy. They get attitude. And he said that's something that Animal Kingdom had. He said that's something that he's starting to see in Irish War Cry. And to me, I extended that to Always Dreaming. That, to me, is what I see from going on with Always Dreaming. I also want to point out that Always Dreaming is the only horse in the field that has run his last 2 races at a 1 1/8 and done well both times. So I'm not that concerned about the distance there with him either. I think he's an extremely talented horse that has tactical speed, can go the distance. Yep, he's just like others. He could get a bad trip and all of that could change, but my top pick is Always Dreaming.
Yeah, Matt, and I do go a little bit the other way with Always Dreaming. I do think he has been headstrong here. I know Pletcher was very interested to get a little bit of that edge off of him, and he had hoped that a nice workout with a strong gallop out would do the trick. I don't know that it's done the trick completely. I think he's still just a little bit hard to handle, which may be a little bit different than what Graham Motion was talking about. His horses kind of getting almost ornery, knowing that they're good and just really wanting to be out there and to run and not to fool around with too much else. If Always Dreaming is a little bit over-eager in the Kentucky Derby, and everything, of course, is amplified with 20 horses and 160,000 people, I think that could be problematic for him, especially if it's a faster pace, which we think it could be. So that's one thing I do worry about, and he's an inexperienced horse as well. So Always Dreaming obviously could be the most talented horse in this field and could win the Kentucky Derby. There's no way I can throw him out completely. But on the other hand, that eagerness for me is a little bit of a worry, because I think that goes into the Kentucky Derby and the difficulties of running in the Kentucky Derby and maybe running a little too fast, a little too pressured early. So we'll see. Matt, on that note, let's get into our bets. We got a bunch of bets. I'm going to go first. And my the first thing I want to do is a simple Exacta box. And what I'm looking to do, folks, with this bet is isolate my top 2 picks. I think they'll both be in the 7-1, 8-1, 9-1 range. That's McCracken and Gunavera. And then I'm going to play them with 4 live long shots. And this is in this Exacta box, I don't have a lot of horses that people love in this race. Always Dreaming for one, Classic Empire, the favorite for another, even Irish War Cry, Motion's horse. But what I'm trying to do is, I think this is a wide open year. It just doesn't make sense to me as a lifetime bettor to put too much onto the favorites. So I'm looking for these long shots to run 1 or 2. I think there's an excellent chance that one of the top 2 horses in this year's Derby will have odds of 15-1, 20-1, or higher. Sonneteer 60-1 maybe. So my $2 Exacta box will be 6 horses. Like I said, the 2 top ones, McCracken and Gunavera, but then 4 long shots looking at lead despite the 1 post. Hence, who I think a lot of people are rightfully high on here at Churchill Downs, Tappert and then Sonneteer. If I can get both of the long shots into the Exacta, it's going to be balloons, Matt. But even if I can get one running second behind McCracken and Gunavera, I'll be very happy.
Hey, Brian, the Kentucky Derby 20-horse field, this is the day that you take a shot at a big Exacta box. We're going to talk about our trifecta plays in a little bit. We're going to do that at the end, where we're really going to go for some big payouts. Besides the trifecta, the other bet that I'm going to play is in the Oaks Kentucky Derby 2-day daily double. I'm not going for a huge payout here, but I'm looking for a way to take advantage of the horse that I think might be the best horse running on Friday and Saturday, and that is Paradise Woods in the Kentucky Oaks. I think that she could be a super talent. Her race in California was amazing. On the win side in that race, she's going to be bet low, but I see a possibility in this daily double with 14 horses in the Oaks, 20 horses in the double. That's a lot of double combinations. I'm going to make some big double tickets with Paradise Woods. I'm going to make a big double ticket Paradise Woods with McCracken and one with Always Dreaming. And then I'm going to make another double ticket, not quite as big, with Paradise Woods with Guinevere and one with Hence. I'm thinking that the double Paradise Woods with McCracken could pay anywhere between minimum of $20-some and could pay up to maybe $30-some. And if I have a big ticket on that, I could pick up $400, $500, $600. So taking a shot on the Oaks Daily Double. I'm looking for a way to make some money on a terrific filly.
Yeah, Matt, I think if you get Paradise Woods with McCracken, it's going to pay more than 20 or even 30. McCracken, I would think, would pay over 15 to win himself. So I think that's interesting. If you really like Paradise Woods, I like what Matt's doing. He's kind of going for the gusto with her. I, on the other hand, see a real betting opportunity in the Oaks. Now, Paradise Woods certainly could be the best horse in the Oaks field. Paradise Woods' win in the Santa Anita Oaks was terrific. There are a lot of warning signs to me. And by the way, she's looked really good in the few times I've seen her here on site at Churchill Downs. A beautiful, big, strong filly. She could win easy. And I'll have to take my lumps if she does. In fact, I will use her defensively. But Paradise Woods at under 2-1 just strikes me as a horse that is getting bet that way off of one single race. Remember, she only had 2 sprints, 2 maiden races coming into the Santa Anita Oaks. Abel Tasman was a heavy favorite. Abel Tasman had a horrendous, the worst trip I've seen all year. Abel Tasman had in the Santa Anita Oaks. On the other hand, Paradise Woods was out winging on the lead. She looked great. She looked fantastic. But this is a far different race. So for her to jump from whatever she was at Santa Anita in a light field to 8-1 or so, down to 8-5 or lower in this 14-horse Kentucky Oaks field with a bunch of speed in there at this time, Matt. Miss Sky Warrior, Farrell, 2 really good fillies that want to be on or near the lead as well. I think it's tailor-made for an upset. I'm going to say it one more time. Paradise Woods could be just too good. Matt could be sitting on some nice doubles there. But for me, I have to try to beat Paradise Woods as an overbet Kentucky Oaks favorite. Matt, I'm going to use that to transition into my multi-day wager, which, of course, is the Oaks Woodford Reserve Kentucky Derby. Now, unfortunately, I don't have all the information on the Woodford Reserve out yet, but I do know that I will absolutely be betting to Visadero, a horse who loves Churchill Downs. I loved his last prep at Keeneland. He's 0 for 3 this year, but Churchill Downs is his favorite track. 9 furlongs is his favorite distance. And that prep, it was an allowance race at Keeneland, but it might as well have been a graded stakes race. It was a really classy field at Keeneland. Just missed to Visadero. I think he's a very good chance to win the Woodford Reserve again for the 2nd straight year for trainer Buff Bradley. So I'm going to do a little 50-cent pick 3. I'll probably do a little bit more with this as I have all the information, but I'm going to use 6 in the Oaks. And of course, what I just said about trying to beat the favorite, Paradise Woods, the clear favorite, a little bit goes into my thinking there. So I'm going to use Abel Tasman. Wish she had a better post than the 13, but I still like her quite a bit. Paradise Woods as saver. Farrell, I think she has a big shot. She's done nothing wrong. She's won at Churchill. Salty is a quickly improving filly for the Mark Casse barn, and she could rally a bit too. Miss Sky Warrior, she just keeps getting better and better for Kelly Breen. She's also part of that pace. And then if the pace is hot, like I see these three favorites all wanting to be on or near the lead, I think Daddy's Little Darling could be progressing to a very big race. She'd have to come from well off the pace. And depending on the track condition, that could be a little tougher to do. But even in slot, Matt, if they're running 44.4, look out for a horse like Daddy's Little Darling. I'll use them with Divisadero singled in the Woodford Reserve. And then I'll just go 5 deep with probably the horses I think are most likely, at least considering the odds, to win the race. And that's McCracken, Gunavera, Hence, Looking at Lee, and Classic Empire. That's only a combination of 30. So for 50 cents, that's only a $15 play.
And that's a play that could earn you a lot of money, Brian Zipsy. Again, like we said, you don't want Paradise Woods to win. That's a 14-horse field and a single, and then a 20-horse field. That's a lot of combinations flying there, Brian. And if you get a big price in the, meaning not Paradise Woods, in the Oaks, and another good price in the Derby, and you get Divisadero, you're going to get a terrific, terrific payoff.
Absolutely. Hey, Matt, speaking of terrific payoffs, you are one of the kings of talking about the Kentucky Derby trifecta. So it looks like these are our biggest tickets that we're offering today on HorseCenter. Let's jump right into our trifecta plays in the Kentucky Derby, and I'll let you start it off.
Sure, Brian. I think I've got 3 trifectas in a row in the Derby, although the last 2 have not been ones where I've made any money because it's been all favorites. But before
this
that,
year is going to be bigger, Matt. We know that.
I know.
This year will be bigger.
I know. So the year before that, it was California Chrome's year, and it paid $900. So I'm still ahead. Here's what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm not playing the Derby to win. I really can't pick one to win. I'm putting 4 horses on top, and Brett's going to have our tickets up on the screen as we're talking, folks, and you can click the pause button to write everything down as we're going. I'm using my top choices, Always Dreaming, Hence, McCracken, and Gunavera in the top spot. I'm also going to put those 4 in second and third. But in second and third, I'm going to use 6 other horses. And from those 6, I'm hoping to get some nice big odds. You can see them there for 50-cent bet. That's a $144 ticket. You might be saying that's a pretty big ticket, Matt. Okay, well, if it's not in your budget, you can trim the second and third spots down. You don't want to put 10 horses there? Trim it down to 8. And that might fit in your budget a little bit better. But for me, I'm going 4 by 10 by 10, 50-cent ticket, $144. If it comes in right, I could collect thousands.
Yes, you could, Matt. And I think this is the year that it's going to happen because, as I said, I really do expect at least one long shot, probably in the Exacta, and maybe the trifecta, superfecta at least gets a couple in there. And that's going to make these prices in a wide open Derby zoom to big time. Matt, I am going to do a win bet on McCracken, but I'm going to be greedy with this win bet. I don't want 7-1 or so on McCracken, 6-7-1, whatever he's going to be. I want more, and the way I'm going to do it is with a trifecta, but it is a win bet in essence, in that McCracken is my single on top. It's a trifecta key. So I'm doing a $1 trifecta key, a little bit more than Matt. But with just McCracken on top, it of course limits my combinations way down. I'm going to use a bunch of horses below him. Some of the long shots I've talked about already. 4 of them I talked about already. I'm also throwing Battle of Midway in as a long one. But then I'm also using the horses that I fear the most. Of course, you know, Gunavera being one of them. But then Classic Empire, Always Dreaming, and Irish War Cry. Matt, so I have a $1 trifecta key, McCracken over 9 horses, Gunavera, Looking at Lee, Hence, Classic Empire, Always Dreaming, Irish War Cry, Taprit, Sonneteer, who I really hope gets in there at 60-1, and Battle of Midway. So that's 1 by 9, and then you have those same 9 horses for third, which pairs it down to a 72 combination ticket, $1, $72 total. If McCracken wins and I don't get the trifecta, It'll be disappointing that I didn't make the win bet, but I think there's a good chance that I will get the trifecta, and this could be 3-4 times what the win bet would pay.
Yeah, and looking at our two trifecta tickets there, folks, you can see that there's a lot of similar horses. So it's very possible that if Brian hits his key with McCracken, that I could also hit it too.
Good point, Matt. All right, folks, we talked about Kentucky Derby, Exactas, the Oaks Derby double, the Oaks Woodford Reserve Derby pick 3, and of course our trifecta bets in the Kentucky Derby. The draw is in. Again, I hope you enjoyed the show. We're brought to you every week by the best contest site out there, Derby Wars. You folks, I'm just getting to know more and more of you with every new month at the track. You folks are the best fans out there. We appreciate you watching every week. Matt, parting shots from you, sir.
I just want to say, hey, folks, have fun Derby weekend, Friday and Saturday, wherever you are. If you're on your couch in your living room, or if you're at Keeneland, or if you're at Churchill Downs, or your local OTB, have fun. It's Derby Day. There's so much action. And like you said, Brian, no doubt I'll be making some other bets besides the ones that we have up on the screen. I don't know. I'll probably do some of your bets, Brian Zipsy, because I have so much respect for you also. And as always, I want to thank our producer, Brett Workman. I want to find out what Brett is betting too, because he's a heck of a handicapper.
That's right. We need Brett's bets. Maybe next week is Brett's winning bets. We review all of his winning bets and our losing bets. Matt, one more thing, what you just said, please don't drive down my odds too much. That's another edition of HorseCenter.